I've been reading a really good book. It's a new book called Supercommunicators, and I actually came across it by chance, and I'm so glad I did. It is by Charles Duhigg, and he speaks about that all communication involves basically three conversations. The one is what's this really about? The other one, how do we feel? And the third one, who are we? So in any type of conversation, you usually start off with the, what's this really about? But underlying every type of communication, there's emotion. So it's how we are feeling about the topic and our outcomes, what we want from the topic. And then who we are is more of our social identities and how that plays a role in what we communicate. So what's very interesting for me was the section around emotions. And he says that emotions shape every conversation. They guide what we say and how we hear, often in ways we don't realize. And this for me this is really important because it's not only that my emotional state will influence how I'm saying, what I'm trying to get across to you, but my emotional state will also influence what I'm actually hearing, how I am interpreting your communication, and the meanings I am giving to what you're saying is so influenced by whatever emotional state I am in at that moment. And that's why so often when we are speaking to someone and we wonder how they cannot understand what we're saying, they seem to totally misinterpret our words. It's usually or probably because of the emotional state they were in at that time when they were in the conversation with us. Their underlying emotion, even if they're not consciously aware of it, will influence the filter by which they are perceiving what you are saying. So we need to remember this, how much our emotions actually play a role in our ability to communicate. And it's obviously our communication that influences our relationships. If we are not getting our message across or it is being misinterpreted, there probably is a deeper, how are we feeling kind of conversation that needs to be had. We need to start unpacking the undercurrent of emotion that is behind the what do we want, the topic of the conversation. As well as we need to ourselves, if we want to be better listeners, if we want to allow that person a chance to actually be heard, not only just to feel heard, but for us to understand the meaning of what they are trying to say, we then need to be conscious of the emotion we are in that moment, in that conversation, and how that will cloud or influence our interpretation of what we are hearing. So yes, the key thing, I suppose, just to say, I mean, we can spend hours just talking about emotions. The key thing to say is that whenever we are trying to have a courageous conversation, one of the reasons we do the preparation is to manage our own emotions so that we can show up in the best state possible. It also, the prep allows us to be clear on what we want, which is part of that conversation. And then the preparation where we allow the other person a chance to prepare. We invite them to the courageous conversation moment. We invite them to prepare and for them to try and get into their best state for that conversation. It's really important that we not only manage our state, but we allow the other person a chance to manage theirs. And if we are realizing that our communication, our meaning is being misinterpreted or not getting across, it's a good time to have a meta conversation, a higher level conversation around what emotion is actually underplaying this, or what is happening emotionally in this conversation that we are maybe not aware of or acknowledging that could be influencing this point being discussed in the most constructive way. So I hope you can take this little bit and just to think about your emotion and the other person's emotions as we go into enduring a courageous conversation. Because after all, we can change our worlds one courageous conversation at a time. So the better we are able to handle these conversations, the more likely we are to make the positive and uplifting effect we want on our worlds.